Hey, did you ever hear the term drayage freight? Did you ever wonder what it means and what that freight niche is? Well, today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to share with you 4 things that every freight broker needs to know, absolutely must know before pursuing the drayage freight niche. Okay? So that's what we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody's catching me on replay. Truly appreciate you being here. Hit me up in the comments with hashtag replay. If you're catching me live, that's awesome too. Jump in. The water's warm. We're going to do another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today is Monday. And I'm just glad I could do this today. I had to run my dog to the vet earlier today for a consultation for some surgery he's going to have. So it was a little bit crazy. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to make it back, but I did make it. So here I am. Thank you so much again for joining me. We're going to let some people get live today. Here's the agenda. First, we're going to do the training. All right. We're going to talk about those 4 tips, those 4 things that every freight broker must know before jumping into the drayage freight niche. Then we're going to do a giveaway of one of the Freightpreneur t-shirts, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. And then we're going to do live Q&A. Okay. So that's going to be the order. That's what we're going to do. While we're waiting here for everybody to get live, as you come in, hit me up in the comments and let me know the city and state that you are logging in from. I'm in the Buffalo, New York area. I'd love to hear from you. I know we usually have people from all over the country and even all over the world. Sometimes we've had 3 or 4 multiple different countries, anywhere from Eastern Europe to Asia to Australia to England and South America, all over the place, Canada. So yeah, hit me up and let me know. I'll give you a quick shout out best I can based on time allotted. And then we're going to get the ball rolling. So what do we got here? All right. We got Maria from Memphis, Tennessee, or from Memphis, Texas. I'm sorry, Maria. Sorry about that. Torrance from Torrance, California. Torrance, LA. Okay. So good morning, Torrance. Oh, from LA. Okay. Sorry. We've got Mark Townsend from Eagle Point, Oregon. We got Tony Petroselli from Chicago, of course. Anna is with us. Sweetness is from Atlanta, Georgia. Michelle Baldbridge from Topeka, Kansas. Sorry, my thing just skipped here. Sorry about that. Michelle from Zephyr Hills, Florida. Kate Moody from Orange County, California. Anna from Louisville. Maria from Gillette, Wisconsin. Kevin Perry from Raleigh, North Carolina. Rolando from the Dominican Republic. Here we go. Kay Witt from Albany, New York. Dr. Andre from Gainesville, Virginia. Veronica from Brownsville, Texas. Gloria from Castleberry, Florida. Zoran from Macedonia. Awesome. Samuel from Philadelphia. Boaz from California. Rosser from Paris, Illinois, not Paris, France. Mark from Pittsfield, Maine. Lazile Lacida from Jersey City, New Jersey. Michelle from Brooklyn, New York. Benjamin from Indianapolis, Indiana. Cynthia Moore from Maryland. Derek Rice from Arkansas. Hey, thank you guys so much for being here. I truly appreciate you joining. A bunch of people are getting live now, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever you're at. I truly appreciate that you're here. Yeah, today is Monday. I do a Freight Broker Bootcamp live training every Monday at noon. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dennis Brown. I've been an entrepreneur for over 27 years, built 4 multi-million-dollar companies in 4 different industries. One of the companies I built starting back in 2003 was a logistics company, a freight brokerage, grew that company to over $80 million a year, and then eventually sold that company. But I'm also the owner of FreightBrokerBootcamp.com, which is the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker and freight agent training program. If you're interested in starting and jumping into the logistics industry, that's the place to go. Okay. So thank you so much for being here once again. Let me grab a quick drink and then we're going to get the ball rolling. So again, today we're going to talk about the drayage niche. Have you ever been curious? Hit me up in the comments before we get started. Have you ever been curious of what the drayage niche is? Have you ever heard of the drayage freight niche? Do you know anything about it? Do you specialize or pursue or, niche down into that drayage niche? Hit me up in the comments and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Again, today we're going to talk about 4 very important facts, very important things that you as a freight broker must know before jumping in to the drayage freight niche. Okay. So let's see, who do we got? So I'm assuming I get a lot of questions about drayage. Okay. I get a lot of questions about drayage, and I'm going to try to break it down a little bit today. And then I'm going to share some of those facts. We'll try to keep it as short as possible. But all right, great. Well, we've got a bunch of people live, and I know a bunch of people are going to catch this on replay. So why don't we just dive in? All right. So today I'm going to share with you 4 things that every freight broker must know before diving in to the drayage freight niche. All right. So it only makes sense that we start out with what is drayage. Okay. Now, drayage in its simplest form is the transport of containerized cargo, right, to or from an ocean port or a rail terminal. Okay, so let that sink in for a minute. Containerized freight to or from a port or a rail terminal. Now, what is a container? What is containerized freight? Now, a container is basically a very durable, big steel box where shippers load their goods, though they typically are anywhere between 10, they usually have about 3 different sizes, 10 foot, 20 foot, or 40 foot. And there are different types of containers. I'm not going to get into the nuances of containers, but just know that everything goes inside of that big steel box and it's transported to or from a port or to or from a rail terminal. All right. Now, obviously, it involves a trucking component. This is where we're connecting the intermodal components of rail and ocean freight. Okay. So when you have an ocean movement, it picks up at a location in China, for example, and gets loaded in a container and then brought to a port. And then it gets loaded onto a ship. And then it goes across the ocean. It comes into our port. And then it gets unloaded from the ocean vessel. And then it goes onto a truck. And then it eventually goes to a delivery location, maybe the customer or some distribution point. The same sort of scenario for rail. So I want you to understand that there's still a very important component that trucking companies and freight brokers can play in the drayage and intermodal space because it requires a truck to either pick up and bring to a port or a rail yard or to deliver from a port or a rail yard. Okay. So that's the simplest format. Now, the 4 things that you as a freight broker must know before you really start to dive in and pursue the drayage niche is this. Number 1, okay? Brokers and carriers should both have what is called a SCAC code. That's SCAC, SCAC code. It stands for your Standard Alpha Carrier Code. Now, brokers are not carriers, but you can and will need and want to get your SCAC code because in the drayage space, SCAC code is an important component of how they manage and identify people that are in that space, okay? Brokers and carriers, just to break it down to the simplest common denominator. Now, it's not expensive. You can go to the website nmfta.org and you can apply for that. It's not an extensive background or anything crazy. It's an application fee. I think the application fee is around $80, okay? So it's not a ton of money. But if you are going to get in the container drayage space as a carrier or as a broker, you are going to need a SCAC code. That's number 1, okay? When I was a broker and they told me I needed a SCAC code, I was like, what is a SCAC code? So I was asking the same questions as you. We got the SCAC code. It opened up opportunities in different genres like the drayage industry, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, the carriers that you use will need what is called a UIAA agreement, which stands for a Uniform Intermodal Interchange and Facilities Access Agreement. Basically, what this does is this is a set of guidelines and rules for motor carriers as it relates to ocean and rail providers, as well as the people that provide the equipment associated with any of that movement. again, those containers, right? So those containers are owned by somebody and they have to be transported from point A to point B, but they also have to be returned as a part of that process, okay? So it's a little different than a full truckload van freight where the carrier owns the container and then they load it and then they unload it and then they just drive down the road with the container. You can't just leave the container at the pickup or delivery location, right? So that is an important part. Now, brokers won't need that, but carriers will need that. And if you need it, and if a carrier needs that, you can go to UIAA.org. That's where you can go. And if you're a broker, you can go there and get all the details and understand what it's all about. You won't need it as a broker, but you will need it as a carrier. Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3, drivers that are going to pick up freight at a port. So this is port-driven freight. Okay. So this is imports and exports. Broker or carriers that are going, drivers, I should say, that are going to pick up freight at a port are going to be required to have what is called a TWIC card, which is a Transportation Workers Identification Card. Now, they will need that in order to get access to the port because, again, there's sensitivity at the port. There's government facilities there. They're concerned about, safety. They're concerned about terrorism. They're concerned about all of these issues coming in and out of the port or affecting our ports. So that is something that a driver will need. Now, just know that if a carrier specializes in drayage, which is typically what you'd be using as a freight broker, their drivers are going to have a TWIC card. But you just want to know that every driver has an updated and current TWIC card, okay? That's number 3. Number 4, brokers and carriers this is a little different. This is what I want you to understand between the difference between containerized freight and full truckload freight. Brokers and carriers can be responsible for additional charges associated with delays in picking up the freight and delivering the freight, as well as returning the containers to the proper party. So in a truckload movement, right, if you're moving a full truckload of van load from Buffalo to Atlanta and you don't pick that load up on time, okay, there's typically not some sort of a fine or a fee associated with it. You failed on the service level, but you as a broker and you as a carrier are not going to get charged. Now, that's different in containerized freight. So if you do not pick the load up within a certain time parameter, and if you do not deliver it within a certain time parameter, and if you do not return that container within a certain time parameter, there are additional fees associated with that. Now, I'm not going to get down into the weeds and talk about all those exact fees, okay? Because that would be very in-depth and very confusing. I think right now, the important thing for you to understand is that the drayage niche is a very powerful, very profitable, very underserved niche in a lot of cases. So you have to understand some of the dynamics that are driving the drayage niche. The fact is the United States has a trade deficit with China. In 2022, I think the trade deficit with China, I had it right here, was $382 billion. That means that we imported $382 billion more worth of goods than we exported. Okay, and that's just China. That's not talking about other countries in the world that we do imports and exports from. So what you have to understand is there's a huge trade deficit. That means that we are buying and consuming more goods than we are exporting. Either way, whether it's an import or an export, there's going to be a drayage component built into it. Okay, so you have to understand that. And so that creates an opportunity because as the global economy continues to evolve and the world becomes a little bit smaller, import and export is going to continue to thrive. And so it is a well-known niche. It is a great niche to be involved with. It is a little bit different than the full truckload niche, but it can be an amazing niche. Now, like anything else, you got to do your due diligence. So part of you watching this video and part of the reason why I put this together was to help you do some of that due diligence. But if you're going to pursue the drayage niche, you're going to want to learn what I've taught you here, and you're going to want to peel the onion back a little bit further to understand that. You're going to want to figure out exactly where you're going to find those drayage carriers. A lot of the load boards will cover that. There are specialized load boards that also focus specifically on drayage freight. So those are a few things that I wanted you to understand. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you subscribe. And if you're curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, and you're looking for some help, you're looking for someone to hold your hand and kind of walk you through the steps, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We've trained over 10,000 students, been in business over a decade. And, I've personally done over $200 million as a freight broker. Plus, we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. If for any reason you're not happy with the program, just send us a message and we'll return 100% of the purchase price. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll check you out on the next video. All right. Hey, guys, listen, hold tight if you're on the live. Hold tight if you're on the live, or if you're catching this on replay. I'm going to grab a drink. We're going to do the giveaway. So I'm going to give away the Freightpreneur t-shirt. I'll tell you how to do that. And then we're going to do live Q&A. Hold your questions. Do not type your questions in the box because they are going to get lost. Okay? Don't type your questions in the box. Anybody who's typing their questions in the box right now, they're going to get lost because I'm going to do the contest to give away the Freightpreneur t-shirt, and then we're going to do the giveaway. And you got to remember, I'm looking at the feed on social media here, and it flies up, and all of a sudden I lose track of everything, okay? So hold tight on your questions. Let me grab a quick drink. And if you would like to have a chance to win the Freightpreneur t-shirt, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand, hold tight. Lean in. I'm going to give you some quick instructions here. You have to be in the United States because I don't ship these t-shirts overseas, as you can imagine. So let me grab a quick drink and then we'll dive in. Yeah, we got a bunch of people live. Love it. And we always end up having a lot more people that catch this on replay. So I know it's the middle of the day, but I do appreciate you guys being here. I love my replay folks. But I really, truly appreciate you live folks taking your time and energy to log in. And I would tell you, set a reminder on your phone for 12 o'clock every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because unless something catastrophic happens or there's something really important that I can't do it, I'm almost always here on live every Monday. And not only do I do a training, but I also do Q&A, which we're going to do at the end here. So hold tight. Okay, cool. So for those of you that want a chance to win the Freightpreneur t-shirt, here's all you got to do. I'm going to make it super simple for you guys. Here's all you got to do. I want you to go to my YouTube channel. If you're not already watching on YouTube, I want you to go to my YouTube channel, and here it is, youtube.com/Freight Brokers. Or you can go on you can go on YouTube and search Freight Broker Bootcamp. You'll see my bald, shiny head, but the channel is Freight Brokers because they don't allow Freight Broker Bootcamp as a channel name because it's too long, apparently. But yeah, go to youtube.com/Freight Brokers or just search Freight Broker Bootcamp. And then what I want you to do is go on the channel, and I want you to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and then the all notifications bell. There's a little bell that'll pop up and say all notifications. And then what I want you to do is come back into the stream, come back into the feed, and let me know that you subscribed and hit the all notifications bell on YouTube. You have to say that in the comments in order to qualify to possibly win the t-shirt, okay? So you're going to go to my YouTube channel, you're going to subscribe, then you're going to come back in and hit the all notifications bell, and then you're going to come back in and let me know you subscribed and hit the all notifications bell on YouTube, okay? You do that, I'm going to randomly pick one person to win the shirt, and then we're going to give it away, and then we're going to jump into Q&A, okay? So that's where we're at. Let's see what we got. Kate Moody, don't tell me done. No, but I don't want to hear done. Done doesn't work. Done doesn't work. Subscribe doesn't work. That doesn't work. Subscribed and click the all notification bell on YouTube. That's the only thing that's going to qualify you as a part of for this giveaway. Okay? I'm sorry. Blakely Friend did it. He said, I subscribed and hit the all notifications bell on Freight Broker YouTube channel. See how perfect that is? The reason why I do that is because you got to understand, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments coming in here, and done or subscribed or okay or ready or YouTube or any of that doesn't tell me. And it's not going to make it fair for you because you're not going to get picked. Okay. So you got to make sure that you subscribed and click the all notification bell. Plus, I want to know that you actually did it. Okay. I want to know that you did it. This is absolutely free. It costs you nothing. It takes you 7.2 seconds to do this. And you're going to get a chance to win the Freightpreneur t-shirt, the highly coveted Freightpreneur t-shirt that I've given hundreds and hundreds away. And I'm going to give one more away today. So we're waiting for a few more people to subscribe. Hold tight if you're looking for the Q&A. I'm going to do the Q&A in a minute. Don't type your questions in the box. Hold tight, hold tight. I will let you know when I start accepting questions. And then you can jump in and I'll do my absolute best to get as many questions as I can, okay? All right, so we got a bunch of people subscribing. Kat, not Kate. I'm sorry, Kat. That was my mistake. I probably misread it or just breezed over it. It's Kat Moody, not Kate Moody. I like Kat better than Kate, as a matter of fact. All right. Some people just don't listen, but it's okay. All right. So 30 seconds and we're going to do the free giveaway of the t-shirt. And then we'll jump into the Q&A. So I'm going to grab a quick drink. We'll let a couple more people. Santi, you never won one? You never won one, huh? Well, I give them out almost every single week. Okay, cool. So here we go, guys. I'm going to take my very non-scientific way of scrolling down through the feed and closing my eyes and randomly picking one person. And the person, oh my God, you guys aren't going to believe this. It's Kat Moody. The person I called out for doing it wrong did it right, and now they won. So Kat Moody, congratulations. You are the winner of the Freightpreneur t-shirt. Someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. Congratulations. Golf clap. All right, so here's what I need you to do, Kat. I need you to either message me on LinkedIn or go to my Freight Broker Bootcamp. Go to my Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page and send me a message with your full name, your mailing address, your size. This is unisex sizing, small, medium, large, extra large, that sort of stuff. And then let me know that you won the YouTube subscribe t-shirt giveaway. Okay? Pay attention. Name, address, size, and that you won the YouTube subscribe t-shirt giveaway. That'll go out within, you usually get it within about 2 weeks, but you got to get me that message so that I can send it out. And we will get that out to you. So congratulations, Kat Moody, for winning the Freightpreneur t-shirt. Thank you so much for everybody who played along. I truly appreciate it. And now you guys can go buck wild and start typing your questions into the box, wherever you're at, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you're at. I will do my absolute best to try to get to these questions. Here's the facts. I will not get to everybody's questions today. Okay. I never have enough time. I always have more questions than time. I'll get to as many questions as I can now as time allots. And then I will try to come back in later tomorrow or during the next week and try to reply to some in the comments or maybe through private message, depending upon how much time I have. So we have, okay, here's a question. Perfect. All right, so question from Blakely Friend. Good morning, Dennis. What is the best way to build relationships with carriers, and how did you yourself keep your list of carriers organized so you could go back to them when needing coverage? Okay, so building relationships with carriers is a training that I just did recently, okay? I just did an entire training with the importance of building relationships with the carriers, and then I gave a bunch of tips. So Blake, I'm going to refer you to that training, okay? So I think it was, it wasn't my last training, but it was a couple weeks ago. You can go through the lives. You can also, I think it is on my YouTube channel or will be on my YouTube channel very soon. Let me just look really quick. Pretty sure. Let's see. Tool. No. Okay. So that's either going to go out this week or next week on YouTube. So I would strongly suggest that you dive into that. I'll send you, I'll try to post a link somewhere for it, But if not, check your email. I did an entire training on how and why you need to develop carrier relationships. I don't want to go back through the whole thing right now, but we'll make sure you get that. Okay. So good question. Thank you for asking. And that's the reason why I put that entire training together. Okay. All right. Troy Pratt. So who is a typical customer in drayage industry? As a freight broker, I'm trying to understand who you would reach out to for this business. Good question, Troy. So Troy, there's really, if you are dealing in the ocean freight container drayage, so it's an import or an export, okay, using an ocean container. In most cases, as a freight broker, your customers are going to be international freight forwarders. So you're going to be working with international freight forwarders, and they will be outsourcing a component of that movement, which is typically the trucking side, either from the origin, picking it up and bringing it to the port, or from the port to the destination. Okay. You have to understand when most shippers move containerized ocean freight, they want to have a door-to-door service. So when they go to an international freight forwarder, they will get a price from the origin, let's say in China, where it's going to be loaded at the facility, the manufacturing facility, loaded in a container, brought to a port in China, then loaded on a ship, brought across the ocean, and then taken off the ship and then moved to the final destination with a drayage carrier. The shippers want all-in rates, so they want them to quote that entire movement. But as a freight forwarder, typically they're not moving that on their own trucks. But what they will do, obviously the ocean component will go on an ocean vessel, and then the trucking on one end and the trucking on the other end will be components that they will outsource to carriers and brokers. So on the international ocean side, most of your shippers are going to be international freight forwarders. Now, it's kind of like a co-brokering relationship, but it's typically how ocean freight is done. You're going to be really hard pressed to go direct to ocean with large companies that do a lot of containers, because you would need to be an international freight forwarder or an NVOCC in order to have a contract or to be able to buy space on an ocean liner. And I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but yes, your customers typically will be international freight forwarders. Now, on the rail side, it's a little bit different. So in a lot of cases, your customers can be direct shippers, just like in full truckload. So if you have a customer that does full truckload freight and they move loads from Buffalo, New York to LA on the rail. So it picks up on a truck in Buffalo, goes to the Buffalo rail yard, gets loaded on a rail. They take it the line haul rail all the way to LA, and then it gets taken off the rail, right, terminal in LA, and then gets put on a truck and delivered to the last mile, right? So in those cases, if you have somebody who's doing full truckload freight, they could also do rail freight, especially if it's long haul. So in most cases, rail freight is not something that's short haul. It's usually longer haul, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 plus miles. And that's where the economies of scale work out in a lot of cases for rail freight. Okay. So yeah. So in those cases, in rail, if you're moving intermodal rail, then your customers in a lot of cases will be shippers direct, or you might be working with other brokers in a co-broker type relationship. Okay. So yeah, that should help you out. Hope that helps. Good question, Troy. So Torrance Turner asks, as a one truck operator out of the Port of LA and Long Beach, how much does each container pay locally, and how can I get direct contact with the port bypassing the broker account? Okay. Well, as a owner operator, you would need some of those requirements. Obviously, you would need a SCAC code. You would need a UIAA agreement. You would need a TWIC card. You would need some of those qualifications, right? And I don't know what local drayage in LA from ports, because I don't know. It depends on where it's going and how far it's going. right? So I can't give you a rate on what it pays. You would have to look at the specific movement, the size of the container, all of that would be a variable, okay? So I can't give you a rate. As far as going direct, again, you as the carrier would go direct either to the shipper or to the international freight forwarder, just like a broker would, right? The problem you're going to have as a one-man operation is that in a lot of cases, international freight forwarders don't want to have to manage hundreds or thousands of carrier relationships. And that's why a lot of times they will partner with brokers and have them outsource it. So I'm not sure I can give you an exact roadmap for trying to bypass brokers, because there's a reason why freight brokers do business with brokers, because they don't just have one truck, right? One truck, trying to manage a relationship with one carrier that has one truck doesn't give them a lot of leverage. Trying to manage a relationship with a freight broker who has hundreds of carriers, who have hundreds or maybe thousands of trucks, that gives them some benefit, right? Some scale. So I hope that helps. K. Witt asks, how does drayage pay to truckload or LTL? It's more like truckload. Okay. It's more like truckload rates than it is LTL, but there are 10, 20, and 40-foot containers. So there are different rates based upon, the size of the container, the port that it's coming into or going out of, the number of miles that it went from the origin to the port or from the port to the destination. There's variables in there, but it's much more like full truckload than it is LTL. But I will tell you, the rates for drayage are typically higher than they are for full truckload, just in my experience, comparing it particularly to van freight. Question from Lenny Dance. How common is it for drayage brokers to pass all fees associated with pickup, delivery, and container return delays to the carrier? And when would it actually be the broker's fault? Well, in most cases, it's going to be the carrier's fault unless the broker miscommunicated the timelines and the dates associated with the beginning of those fees, right? So you're going to run into, you have things like and I don't want to get too complex here, but yes, in most cases, the carriers will know when those fees are going to start because it's a part of the paperwork. So unless the broker directly told the carrier that there was no issue, okay, or that there was no, the wrong dates, or that there wasn't going to be any fees, in most cases, the carriers are going to be aware of that in advance. Sometimes they'll be aware of it even before the broker. So, yeah, I'm not sure how. I know that brokers do not want to accept responsibility for ancillary charges that are caused by the carrier. But at the same time, if a broker is responsible for those charges because they miscommunicated or made a mistake or they forgot to dot their I's and cross their T's, then they got to accept some responsibility for that, right? And that's part of their job. No different than it would be for full truckload freight with detention or truck order not used or driver layover or things of that nature. So that would be something that you would want to hammer out with the broker as a carrier before you take the load. Igor Martin, do you really want to know the answer to this question? What are your thoughts about the new FMCSA rule for broker carrier rate transparency? Okay, good. I'm glad you brought this up, Igor, because guess what? There is no new rule for broker carrier rate transparency. The rule's been around for decades. There is no new rule. This is a myth, a misconception, a misunderstanding. It's misinformation. It's not true. So the rule has been around for decades. It's been around since they deregulated transportation and brokers really started to appear, right? That's when the brokerage industry really started to take off. So Rate transparency is part of the FMCSA guidelines for brokers. And what it says is that if a carrier or any party to the transaction requests documentation associated with it, that the broker has to provide that, and that includes rates. Now, in most cases, carriers know that it's none of their business and they don't ask for it. But if they did, a broker is required by the FMCSA to provide it. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so I want you to understand. The TIA, the reason why there's a misconception on this is that the TIA, the Transportation Intermediaries Association, submitted a request to the FMCSA to remove that as a part of the broker guidelines. They wanted them to remove it. So they put it to the FMCSA, and the FMCSA rejected removing that as a requirement for brokers. So they didn't come up with a new rule. It's been an established rule. It's been a rule since before I started my freight brokerage. Okay. Now, that should take care of that. The second part of it is this, and I'm bound to piss somebody off saying this, probably drivers or carriers. But the fact is, okay, the reality is that first of all, let me set the foundation. In full truckload freight, statistically speaking, these aren't my numbers. Full truckload freight profit for a broker averages approximately 15% when you factor it in nationwide, all of the truckload rates and what a broker makes. 15%. That means that on a $1,000 load, to the shipper, they make $150. The carrier gets $850, and that's the transaction. Now, there's a lot of misconception that brokers are making 40 and 50% on loads. And I'm not saying that hasn't happened. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in a small number of cases. But the norm is the volume of freight that transacts through brokers and carriers and shippers, the average truckload profit rate for a broker is 15%. I'm not making these numbers up. That's statistics. Those are just numbers, industry numbers, okay? So 15% is not an unrealistic or unfair profit margin. And if you think so, then what I want you to do, if you're a carrier or a driver, or you're thinking about becoming a carrier, or you're someone who doesn't like this rule and thinks that brokers shouldn't make any money, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick up your freaking phone. It's super simple. Pick up your phone, dial the phone, call a shipper, and then go get that shipper and get him to agree to give you freight, and then manage that relationship, okay? And manage the expectations of that relationship. And guess what? You can bypass every broker out there. You can bypass every broker out there, and you never have to worry about rate transparency again. Just pick up the freaking phone and go direct to shippers if that's what you think you want to do. But you will find out the amount of time and energy and resources it takes to secure a shipper is way more than the 15% that you're paying on top of that, or you're not paying, that the shipper's paying in order to do business with a broker and leverage the services of a broker. So number one, I think rate transparency is bullshit. I don't think it should be a rule. If you did business with me and you asked me how much I made, I would tell you to kiss my ass. I'm not going to tell you. It's not your business. This is free commerce. Why should I have to divulge my proprietary pricing to you as a carrier or as a shipper? I shouldn't have to. It's proprietary information. It's pricing. Now, there is a rule, and if I was asked as a broker, I would provide it. But I also would add as a part of my contract that we don't divulge that, and that you would forego that ability, and you would not request it if you were a carrier of mine. Because if you want to do business with me, then I'm not going to share that information with you, because I'm going to make money on the transaction. Don't worry about how much I make. Worry about how much you make. And if the rate isn't good, don't take the freight. It's that simple. You got to understand. You guys have to understand. Brokers don't set the rates. Shippers don't set the rates. Carriers don't set the rate. The market sets the rate. Supply and demand. There's too many trucks, not enough loads, rates go down. Too many loads, not enough trucks, rates go up. It's that freaking simple. And I don't know why everybody has such a hard time understanding that. But here's the thing. You guys want to raise the rates? If you're a carrier, driver, or owner-operator, do you want to raise the rates? guess what? Stop taking cheap freight. Just say no, right? Like Reagan back in the 80s. Just say no. Okay? Just say no to drugs. Just say no to low rates. You have more control over the rates than brokers and shippers combined. If you don't take cheap freight, then guess what? Brokers are going to have to go back to the shipper and raise the rates. That's how it works. But if you do take it, that sets the mark. All right. So this was a complete and total rant that I wasn't going to get into, but I do appreciate, Igor, the question. And I hope you guys understand. This is my personal opinion. Some of it obviously is fact, and that's the fact that there is no new transparency rule. The rule's been in place for a long time, but it aggravates me because, you know, I had a conversation with people on LinkedIn not long ago in the last couple of weeks about, you know, rate transparency. And the fact is, now that rates have went down and freight volumes are down, carriers are all pissed off about how much money brokers are making, that 15% margin. But guess what? When rates go up and freight volume goes up, guess who gouges? Carriers. Okay? You guys try to maximize your profit at every turn, right? You try, and that's your job as a business owner in the free market. You should be able to do that. So I don't get mad at you from week to week when you raise your rate by $50, when I knew the fuel that it cost to go the extra miles on that lane only cost you $12, right? If fuel goes up X cents in a week and you ask for $50 more from one week to the next, I don't get mad because you do that. And I don't ask the government to intervene, and I don't ask you to provide me transparency on every cost basis and prove that your rates went up. I don't do that. I suck it up. I either use your service or I don't. Okay? So I hope that helps. That was a really off-the-cuff rant about rate transparency. You guys all know how I feel, and I don't care. I hope you guys appreciate it, but those are the facts. Boy, you teed that one up for me, Igor. Sorry, you're feeling the wrath of that, but that was the deal. Scrolling. Okay, so Kevin Perry asks, will you provide the website to get the application for the SCAC code? You have it out, however, I missed it. Okay, it's the nmfta.org, or you can search SCAC, SCAC code. It's the nmfta.org. That's the website. nmfta.org, or SCAC code, which is SCAC, which is your stands for your standard alpha carrier code. All right. That's where you would go to get that as a broker or a carrier. Yes, I did. You can see the scar though. I've got a pretty good scar in there. I've got 4 stitches in my hand, but yeah, things are going well. Thank you, Mark. All right, let's see. Talal asks, Dennis, is it hard for new brokers to move a couple of first loads through the load board with a carrier until they have credit score? How factoring loads work for new brokers with RTS? Yeah, most new brokers, I don't think I completely understand the question, but I'm going to tell you what I think it means. Most new brokers source their carriers through the load boards when they first get started. And then after they move their first load, they develop a relationship and a rapport and an understanding and a contract with that carrier. And then their job as a broker is to leverage that carrier whenever possible, because they already have that carrier as a part of their network. And so now they want to leverage them on future loads. Now, sometimes that's going to fit right on the next load. Sometimes it won't. But the fact is, you want to leverage that relationship to move future loads. But most of the carriers and most of the loads that you will move as a new broker, your carriers will come from load boards like the DAT, like Truck Stop, like Direct Freight, like 123 load boards, like Trucker Path. All of those major load boards is where your carriers will come from. Now, as far as factoring goes, Most carriers factor. And so they use one of the large factoring companies. There are lots of large factoring companies out there. And you as a new broker may or may not be rejected for credit with those carriers that you're bringing on through the factoring company. But I did an entire training on my YouTube channel, how to build your credit fast as a freight broker. Go to my YouTube channel, search how to build your credit under my videos, not just, on YouTube as a whole, but under my videos, click the search button, and then you'll be able to see how to build credit. We walked Elio Longoria, one of my students and a success story from the program, who's now a 7-figure plus broker. It went through the entire process of how he started with no credit, no experience. And I think he did $7,000 in profit his first week or something in business. And so he had to navigate that credit issue. And he talked about exactly how he went from having no credit to a credit. So that's where you would want to go for that, because I don't want to regurgitate that whole training. Hope that helps. Okay, so here's a question from Ozan. Is the 3PL logistics companies technically drayage companies? Is it a good idea to start working with a 3PL company as an agent at the beginning? Okay, so a 3PL just stands for a third-party logistics company. 3PLs can provide a variety of different services. And sometimes freight brokers just kind of refer to themselves as 3PLs. So they can provide freight management services like freight brokers. They can provide warehousing, they can provide cross dock, they can provide various services, pick and pack, all kinds of different, consulting, supply chain consulting. There's all kinds of things that 3PLs provide. Some of them are very niche and some of them are very general, and they offer a more robust service. Freight brokers are in reality a 3PL. Okay. Now that answers your first part of your question. Is it a good idea to start working with 3PL as an agent at the beginning? You can work as a broker. If you want to be an agent, you can work with any broker that you want, whether they be a larger broker or someone that calls themselves a 3PL, or they call themselves a freight broker. It doesn't really matter. Depends on what you believe fits your needs. If you need a larger company and you're going to specialize in a niche where you need a lot of warehousing or you need ancillary services, then maybe a large 3PL might be the way to go. In most cases, as a new agent, you're probably going to want to work with small to medium-sized companies that are doing $1 million, $5 million, $10 million in sales. Maybe they've been around for a year, 3-5 years, and they're looking to grow. You don't want to go to the large companies like Kuhn & Nagel and TQL and CH and XPO. You don't want to go to those companies because those companies are too big. They don't need you, especially if you don't have a book of business or experience. But there are a lot of smaller companies out there that will hire you. But whether they call themselves a freight brokerage or a 3PL, it really doesn't matter because it's the same thing in reality. Okay? Hope that helps. We only did freight brokerage and we called ourselves a 3PL at Logistic Dynamics. That's simple. From day one, we called ourselves a 3PL. It's just a term. It doesn't really mean anything. Question from Emperor CG and Kings LLC. I need to take one of your classes. I would like to know, do you teach the students through their first load dispatch as a broker, drayage, and rail cargo in your class with a broker? My Freight Broker Bootcamp online training program does not specialize in drayage freight. What we teach is the fundamental components of brokerage. What is brokerage? How to set up your brokerage or your freight agency. How to find your niche, how to price freight, how to dispatch freight, how to do all that in a general sense. Now, we do talk about a few niches, like I think some government freight and maybe some dump trucks and some couple of niches, but we don't specialize in those niches because a lot of our students are going to be in a variety of different niches. Not all of our students go into drayage, not all of our students go into heavy haul, not all of our students go into van or refrigerated. So we don't specialize in any one niche. Okay. So no, we don't walk you through the process of how to move a drayage load, but we walk you through the entire process of how to move a load. Now, remember, this is an online course. This is not a coaching program. If you wanted to do a coaching program, you'd have to pay way, way more. My coaching program that I used to have, one-on-one coaching, was $30,000 a year. I don't even have it anymore because to be honest with you, I had too long of a wait list and I didn't have enough time. So everything is online now, either in the Freight Broker Bootcamp online course where you get online support, or I do have a group coaching program, which is my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which is a good time. Thank you for teeing it up because I'm going to plug it. So my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, if you need help with selling freight brokerage services to get customers, to get shippers, I put together an entire course. It's separate from Freight Broker Bootcamp. You got Freight Broker Bootcamp over here and you got Freight Broker Sales Accelerator over here. Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is where I take that piece of my brain about freight broker sales and acquiring customers, and I transplant it into your head in not only an online course, but a 5-week coaching program where I work with you in a group environment, but you one-on-one to try to make sure all your questions are answered, your issues addressed, to help you implement that into your business to start growing your business. If you want to, now that program is sold out, okay? It's been sold out. But I will reopen it relatively soon if you want to get on the wait list. The only way you can get enrolled in this is to be on the wait list. If you want to get on the wait list, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/wait list. That's where you'll sign up. It costs you absolutely nothing to be a part of the wait list. The training is not free. It's not cheap, but it's worth every dime times 50. Okay? So that's where you guys would get enrolled in the wait list. So I hope that helps. Got to scroll back up here. So sorry about that. Michael McLaughlin, what would be the best way to go to shippers that work with box trucks? Should it be treated as any other shipper? Yes, it's a niche. Typically, box trucks are hauling smaller shipments. So they're LTL shipments, right? So they're 1, 2, 3, 4 pallets. A lot of times they're local or regional moves. Sometimes they require expedited, right? So they got to, they can't, they got to be there. They're time definite and they're expedited. So yeah, I wouldn't treat it different than any other niche. You just need to identify what your niche is and then identify people that are using that niche and then go out and serve it, right? Sorry, you guys probably heard my dog. Apparently he broke free. So I'm going to have to cut this short here. But hold on one second. Frank, get in the hall. That's my pup that I took to the vet today. And unfortunately, he has to have surgery. Frank, get in the hall. He has to have surgery today. Or not today. He has to have surgery in the next couple of weeks. He's got a tumor on the inside of his front elbow, and we're very concerned about it. And so we're going to get it removed and hopefully praying that all works out. He's only 6 years old and he's my boy. He's my best friend. So, and his name is Frank, which is kind of cool, right? So, all right, let me scroll through here. I'm going to wrap up any questions. I'm not going to get to everybody today. Apologize. I'll try to come back in later and answer. Yeah. Question. Hello, everyone. Would you recommend someone to go to Denim Factoring Company or elsewhere, please? Denim was the one that, see, we have thousands of students in my Freight Broker Bootcamp paid members only community. It's a Facebook page that everybody gets access to where they can collaborate and ask questions and do that. And I've surveyed them and I know they talk a lot about it, but the place that they go most often for factoring is Denim. Okay. So yeah, Denim appears to be a very good company. I've done some due diligence on them. They look very legit. They used to be Axle Payments, and then I think they got acquired or merged with another company. Now they're called Denim. So yeah, I have heard that they're very good. I never used factoring personally, but that was only because we had some of the bank financing that we needed in order to do that. And we just played the cash flow game and were able to get through it for the first couple of years until we were able to, secure more bank financing, which is typically what happens. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for today. If you guys want to get on the Freight Broker Bootcamp, the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator waitlist, there's the link. That's my 5-week coaching program where I take that piece of my brain and I teach you everything about Freight Broker, my Freight Broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, and my entire system, because that's the key. What you have to understand is you have to have a system. There's no one script. There's no one rebuttal. There's no one email. There's no one post on LinkedIn, or there's no one strategy that is going to get you shippers consistently in up markets and down markets. You have to have a proven system. That's what I have. Built the brokerage from $0 to $80 million in sales, made a shit ton of mistakes. Trust me, I was the worst salesperson that has ever been hired back when I first graduated from college. I now have this system. I taught the system. I was asked to put this system out for over 10 years. I didn't. I just launched it last year. We've had over 500 students go through that system. And at the end of that, we asked them to rate the system, rate their experience 1 to 10. The average rating is a 9.2. I would have been happy with a 7, ecstatic with an 8. We got a 9.2 out of 10 after having all these exit interviews of over 500 students that have went through the program. So get on the wait list. If you're struggling, or you want to expedite, or you want to full time, or you want to ramp up quicker, get on the wait list for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. If you're brand new and you're just looking to get started in this, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, we've trained over 10,000 students. Many of them have went on to build 6 and 7 and even 8-figure freight brokerages. We've been very blessed, very proud of them. And you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We also offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for playing along on the giveaway. Hope you guys enjoy the weekly lives. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will see you next Monday at noon for another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Thanks all.